Okay, that was quite possibly the worst performance I've ever seen a football team display on national television and then win the game. There was at no point in that game, Garrett, that we deserved to win the game. And the Broncos game where you blocked that kick, everyone was saying you didn't deserve to win that game. At least we earned that block
Yeah, like
because
we blocked it. You know what I mean? Like
like
that was our fault.
this might possibly be a beating on special teams. We got beat offensively and we got beat defensively. We got a lot to talk about this week. All this and more on Talkin Chop. Oh boy.
Yeah, I want to just talk about that for a second.
This guy is a
It
beast.
seems like he just rubs butter on himself.
Because he had 2 touchdowns, baby. Welcome back, watchers and listeners, to Talkin Chop, the show that we try to remain positive, we try to remain unbiased, but after seeing the worst performances by many of our players, experiencing 2 benchings in that game, and playing a 2-9 Raiders team way too close, maybe this three-peats, maybe there is validity to the fraud watch.
The boat has been shaky for a long time. And when you play teams like the Raiders that close, I mean, yes, it is a divisional game. I mean, we saw the same thing over the same week with how the Lions played close to the Bears. It happens from time to time. But at least the Lions put on a show, right? I feel like we were just slowly, draining
Dying.
ourselves of energy and dying as the game went on. And they beat us in pretty much every statistical category you could think of when it comes to playing football, except for the scoreboard, which... I mean, at this point, I think the devil magic rumors might be a little true. You never know what's happening up in the suites. I think I saw a clip of that one movie from Harry Potter where a guy's cursing someone from the sidelines as someone's trying to get a play going. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we need to fix. But we're going to talk about that here in a second. But it's good to be back, man.
It is good to be back. I'm back home where I have my set and my good microphone. I did like the Christmas background for one thing. I gave Amir Abdullah the best game of his career since probably he was in college by showing off that Nebraska thing in my old house. But yeah, crazy game. Definitely not one we deserve to win. And I honestly, we got lucky. There's no other
I
way
think
to put it.
this kind of confirms that we have probably been the luckiest team of all time across all sports this season. I mean, we've had some wins where we just did deserve to, come out with a dub, but there's a couple wins this season that probably should have won by more, if not lost, right? It's us coming close to these games, going up against teams that on paper we should be beating by more, but we just always somehow find ourselves keeping these games close all the way till the fourth quarter and possibly losing them.
Now, I will say this. Before we get too ahead of ourselves here, we're going to address the referee BS right off the bat. We did not win by referees instead of luck this game. If anybody cares to look at the rule book, which, to be fair, I didn't know this was a rule either until it happened, because it's rare that in a crucial moment your center just shoots that ball
Just shoots
forward.
the ball.
It's like,
I know a lot of people said oh, hey, that was a false start, should have been, a dead ball penalty or whatever. Anyone can false start except for the center.
well, also it's under 2 minutes the rules
Yeah.
change. That's the thing I saw. If you look at Kirk Herbstreit's tweet, I think he puts it the best when dissecting that rule, and he also admits too he didn't know that was a rule, but it is probably why one of the officials looked to waive it off, because it's a rare rule. It's also just dude, did they really deserve the ball at that point if they snapped it? But the Raiders shot themselves in the foot many times, and they still played better than us, but we still won. I don't even want that win, dude.
No,
it didn't feel good.
My thing was
Kelsey
I
went straight
accepted
to
it.
the locker
Yeah,
room.
no, he did. He was like, this is done. I've had enough of the way we've been winning games, and we, especially since we had lost, in kind of an exponential manner to Buffalo the week prior. And I honestly wanted us to lose that game because we really needed that stupid tough loss to just get punched in the mouth. I want Matt Nagy gone. I don't want him on staff anymore. I think just the way he's been calling games, the decisions the offense has been making, the way it's going, I don't think that we can sustain that kind of play calling throughout the playoffs. I mean, that dumb, just moronic decision. It is 3rd and 2. We need one single first down to essentially put the game away, and he decides to call a man beater deep. Yeah, Xavier Worthy was open. It would have worked, but Mahomes just overthrows him again.
He had pressure because our line sucks.
Yes. But why are we not running the ball on 3rd and 2 when all we need is a first down to win the game? I don't get it.
it's a mix of trying to balance being a run heavy. Well, we weren't even a run heavy team this game, which
We had 14 carries.
I know it was terrible. We abandoned the run too early. We've beaten Kareem Hunt into the ground. But let's get into the transactional updates before we start ranting, guys. We're
getting ahead of ourselves. We're
too excited to destroy everything. But good news, help is on the way. Chiefs left tackle DJ Humphries is looking to be in line to start. Andy Reid likes to be cryptic in his messaging to not give too much an advantage to the opponent. But, one of our friendly insiders was like, this is basically DJ Humphries will start if he's ready. And that's great news because the rumor, the
great news is this essentially confirms that the Chiefs organization has brought Wanya Morris behind the shed and done the deed, right? Oh, they took him out at the final drive of the game, right? Put Joe Tooney in at left tackle, threw Caliendo in there at guard, which did work for the 7 snaps that he was in, right? I thought Joe Tooney obviously looked way better at tackle than any of the options we had there before. Not anything surprising there. But if DJ Humphries is successful in that position, I think we're going to be a lot better off. I think there might be also a scenario, especially in the playoffs, if it's crunch time, if there's like a crucial situation, maybe we move DJ Humphries over to right tackle if Jawan Taylor still continues to struggle, and keep Joe Tooney out at left tackle with Mike Caliendo playing at guard.
You're saying in a dangerous, like, we need to do something.
Like if Jawan Taylor is just having the worst game of all time and we need an emergency, I could see them, if DJ Humphries ends up playing well for us, moving over to right tackle, putting Joe Tooney at left and keeping Caliendo at guard.
We're going to elaborate on this later, but Wanya Morris and Jawan Taylor both had their career worst game.
Same with Trey Smith. This offensive line-wise was probably our worst collective game, which shows up on the scoreboard considering we've been a run-heavy team. But we'll continue on injury report, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yes. So, this one's a smaller one. We didn't really get to it because it's right before the game, but Anthony Firkser was elevated to the game. Peyton Hendershot got put on IR like maybe the next morning after our podcast episode. So we didn't get to talk about Peyton Hendershot going on IR. Don't know if that's like his groin injury. He came back into the game, like whatever, put him on IR. I think we still get to keep the pick that we got in the trade for him. So that's a wash. But Anthony Firkser is a guy that I really like. He didn't do anything in this game, but I still like him.
He's just an extra guy to have out there. It's nothing too crazy.
And then, more reports have come out. Hollywood Brown back for Christmas time. That'll be great. Maybe having more mouths to feed, more speedsters teams can stop blitzing everybody and stop like just attacking our tackles because there'll be more threats underneath and more threats.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, well, what difference is he really going to make? At the start of the season, he was consistently, getting our number wide receiver 1 and 2 reps. So he's going to be better than really anybody we've had out there. Maybe not D-Hop. He's been playing really well for us. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, if our tackle situation doesn't improve, we can throw a million other receivers out there, but we can't get on the ball. It's not going to help us too much. But I'm really excited for Hollywood to come back.
And then finally, we had our best player in that game is Matt Wright, who we called up from the streets because in practice, our boy Spencer Schrader, rookie sensation out of Notre Dame, was really looking to, get a huge like media boost and like a good sample size for his potential future in the NFL. Unfortunately, went down on practice in Monday when we recorded our podcast. He went down with there wasn't a practice, but there was a walkthrough. He went down with a hamstring injury in some of the running drills. I don't know why he was out there doing that, but nevertheless, we needed Matt Wright. And
I don't know what it is with our special teams, like kicker and punter, but we're kind of getting a little bit unlucky. Especially, we obviously had Butker go down, then we had Schrader go down. Now we're down to our third string and Matt Wright. Matt Wright still played well, right? And so did Spencer Schrader. But, how many more can we drop down until we get like into the really like sketchy situations?
Speaking of sketchy situations, 2 Chiefs players got benched in this game, which have been players that fans have been calling to be benched. Now, you should never listen to the fans when you're a coaching staff. Like, never just, bench a player just because the fans are mad at them. But there was some validity to these claims. These players did not step up when they were asked to step up, and therefore the benchings have incurred. Wanya Morris and Nazeeh Johnson were both benched in this game, Garrett. I mean, Nazeeh Johnson has been a story that's hard not to root for. It's a UDFA, and he's a guy who tore his ACL when he was supposed to take over and, play meaningful football. But then that was some of the worst cornerbacking.
Yeah, he was really bad that game.
It reminded me of Orlando Scandrick, and that's not a guy I want to remember.
That might be my worst, my least favorite Chiefs player of all time is Orlando Scandrick. That guy was literally so terrible. And then after he left the Chiefs, he started trash talking the Chiefs, being like, "Oh, it's just such a really bad, organization." I'm like, dude, you were literally the worst player ever to play for the Chiefs.
Yeah. Well, and he was old when he played with us too, which what a weird time to be. What a weird time for us. But anyway, yeah, Nazeeh Johnson gets benched for Joshua Williams. Joshua Williams was supposed to be good and was supposed to be in line to be the outside corner 3. But, I guess some penalties were really what kind of killed Joshua Williams, especially in special teams. But he finally gets the nod. He played a good game, Garrett. Pass deflection, tackle for loss. Joshua Williams was serviceable out there, I know the Raiders' weapons... Well, they killed us, so it doesn't even matter. I can't even say that, but he looked good out there. And then,
it's always good to see. Yeah, it's always good to see someone come in and play well for a player that's struggling, right? It shows that our depth can be serviceable at times. When early in the season, sometimes our depth pieces really went in and kind of fumbled the bag, right? Speaking of this player, Wanya Morris got benched. I know it was only the last drive of the game. Joe Toonley only went in for left tackle for 7 snaps, but in those 7 snaps, we really didn't have any that many struggles or problems. I could see this being a consistent fix later down the season if there's ever a crucial situation. If DJ Humphries turns out to be not as good as we hope he's going to be, but
can't be much worse.
I really don't want to see Wanya Morris get on the field again. I feel bad for saying that, but he's just been terrible. So
and Wanya Morris he's been a cool guy off the field, and he's just a good personality, so it sucks to root against. Not root against, but just root for a replacement. So
it's just there are 76 rated tackles on PFF, right? Eligible tackles to be rated. Our highest rated tackle is the 57th, which is Jawan Taylor. Then you scroll all the way down to number 69, where there's Wanya Morris. So got to have somebody out there that might be playing better than him. I mean, a guy like Jedrick Wills Jr. He is playing better than Wanya Morris, and he's been terrible. So what does that tell you? Not too sure.
It's just, it's time for change is what it tells you, Garrett. And I'm excited for the change. Hopefully DJ Humphries comes in and fixes this problem, because Mahomes was sacked 4 times again. Well, last week he was sacked 5 times, but again, against the Panthers defense that was terrible at getting to the quarterback, they sacked him 5 times. A Raiders defense that hasn't been much better. Max Crosby did not sack Mahomes at all in this game. 4 other times Mahomes was sacked.
He had a ton of pressures, though.
He did.
Ton of pressure.
He did, but that's it wasn't even just Crosby. It was just everybody was getting home. So that's just great. But let's talk about Taylor and Wanya's performances today. The worst games of Wanya's career and the worst game of the season for Taylor, maybe worst of his career. I didn't look too much into that.
So we're going to just start off. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off and go to the worst, right? So if you weren't aware, PFF, I mean, a lot of people trash on PFF, especially for quarterback ratings. I don't really like them for quarterback ratings. I think other positional players, I think it's, has a lot of value. But they're graded out of 100. In a game. The best you can get is 100. No one ever gets 100, right? Wanya Morris, with a sack, a hurry, actually 6 hurries, 8 total pressures, and 2 penalties, had a rating of 30.5 out of 100. Worst of the season by far. Statistically, probably one of the worst offensive line performances of the year. Might even be in probably the last 10 years. It was terrible. He had a horrible game.
Yeah, I mean... It was very apparent, too, because there just were not drives being sustained. And I mean, I think the Raiders beat us in time of possession. We didn't look up into that, but I mean.
They did. I think they had 31.5, and we had, whatever the opposite of that was.
29 something or 28. Yeah. But
28.5, I think.
We just couldn't sustain any drives. And so that is indicative. And also because of all the misfires. The Mahomes' misfires, I'm starting to finally be like, maybe it's not on Mahomes all the time. It might just be our O-line is that bad.
Yeah, and it's hard when we try and get into these really rhythmic kind of play calls when the rhythm gets thrown off so suddenly and so often, right? So when Wanya Morris lets a guy beat him on the outside and get a hurry or a pressure, and it throws off Mahomes' mojo every single time. And then we finally, move the running back over, kind of help chip the guy on Wanya Morris. Then Jawan Taylor lets the guy off his side, let pressure again, so we can't let a guy get set, but he's feeling these phantom pressures at times. Like we've seen when there's a nice clean pocket, could read a book back there, he's still rushing himself and making throws that he shouldn't because he thinks that pressure is going to beat him on the outside. Which is really, it's a hard situation to deal with because
that's a mental thing.
Yeah, it's a mental thing. It's not something you can fix, right? He's been accustomed to not getting the time that he's used to for the past couple years, and hopefully DJ Humphries can come in and fix that. But he's been sacked 9 times in the last 2 games, and we are our next 5 games. 4 of those teams are playoff teams in the AFC, so it's not gonna get easier, right?
And the other one, as you said, the Browns are. The Browns have beaten some top teams. Like they beat the Steelers. Like they got Jameis now. They got some mojo. They're not going to be an easy game either. What did you call them earlier?
Yeah, the Browns, I feel like this year are like the KU of the NFL, where like the KU was off to a really rocky start, and then all of a sudden just like racked off a bunch of ranked wins against these like kind of tougher opponents and just kind of ruining seasons. That's kind of what the Browns have done. They've taken a win off the Ravens. They've taken a win off the Steelers, right? Those are hard divisional matchups, which we're going into one this week with the Chargers, right? So it's kind of a similar situation, but it's just showing that our next 5 games, nothing is going to be a given, right? We're going to have to work for every single one of these wins, and every single win is going to be crucial because Buffalo is probably not going to lose another game. We need to stay ahead of the curve, and we need to get that first round bye because we had our bye in week 5, right? Or week 6. We're not going to have a bye if we don't get one. It's going to be brutal for us.
And if we are getting compared constantly to that Steelers fraudulent team that went 11-0, we are at that point in the season where the Steelers like almost lost out basically. So, and we're hitting that stretch where we might see ourselves start to lose games, and then all of a sudden wild card exit. I don't think we're going to be a wild card exit with Mahomes. I don't think that's even possible, but maybe don't even make it to the AFC Championship this year if the tackle play doesn't get solved. And that's the thing. If you look at the Super Bowl winners of the last, like, maybe all time, but we'll just say the last, like, 15 years to have a smaller sample size, it's always a top 5 O-line and a top 5 D-line. They might not be the biggest names, but they're all playing at a level that is top 5. They have the depth to support top 5. Look at the one year that Mahomes lost the Super Bowl is when our offensive line was the worst one in that game. And
we were injured to just high heaven, and we had our third string left tackle playing, right tackle. We had our, second string guard playing left tackle, third string guard playing right. It was just a hodgepodge of names that, would probably make you cringe right now looking back at it. And I have a picture when I added onto the pod another day. But as we talked about, it's not going to get easier. And if you guys didn't know, we play a 3-game stretch over 10 days.
Yeah, we're going to lose one of those games.
We're going to lose. It's not possible that we win all 3 of those. It's 3 games in 10 days. And we're already injured as it is, right? So we're going to get even less rest, playing significantly harder opponents over a 10-day stretch. That's 3 games.
Now, the positive outlook on this is I think that this will give the team some adversity and maybe some desire to actually win. I think we've been too content this season. It feels like the players are saying that they're not content, but their play is not reflecting that they are, hungry for something more. So hopefully this last stretch of the season is definitely going to start to show what this Chiefs team really is. And are they going to have the mojo to actually make it all the way for that 3rd Super Bowl appearance and then potentially that 3rd Super Bowl win? Now, Garett, you look at the offensive line, you have some former players that people have been comparing our players to. Like we lost Orlando Brown Jr. and we lost Andrew Wiley. And so where are those players ranking in terms of tackles compared to our tackles? Just to ease the minds of our guys.
The thing is, right, so Jawan Taylor, he is ranked 57th out of, I think it was 76 tackles or whatever, right? He's the highest of all the guys I'm going to mention, right? Orlando Brown Jr., he's down at the 61. He's not been playing great either. Wanya Morris, he's down at the 69. But then you have a guy like Andrew Wiley, who's 58, right below Jawan Taylor, right? We let him walk.
Affordable option, too.
Affordable option for I mean, obviously, he's gone. We're not going to bring him back. But it's just these decisions that Veach is making. I didn't want to bring Orlando Brown Jr. back, especially for that money. I'm fine with leaving him where he is, right?
But then you paid Jawan Taylor the same money.
And he's, arguably just slightly better, right? And he's not playing like he's worth $80 million.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of the issue I'm having with Jawan Taylor. It's like, yes, he's had okay games, but he's also just consistently had really bad games, and he's not playing like this premier tackle that we're paying him as. So I know we have an out next year in his contract. If we can somehow find a way to get DJ Humphries consistently playing really well and hopefully find a suitable replacement in the draft, I want to dump Jawan Taylor as soon as possible.
There is something that happened recently in the college football world that might be good news for the Chiefs, and that is premier tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. from the Texas Longhorns got injured in the A&M game. Now, why is this good? Tackles are pretty cut and dry. Like, who the top 5 tackles are going to be, and they all go in the first round before we even get to like the 25 to 32 pick range.
The only way we would ever get one of those is if we trade up super high, and we all know Veach is never going to do that.
But with the injury, could Kelvin Banks fall to that 25 to 32 range where we can actually trade up and get him? Because we're able to trade up to, I think, I would say 22 is our like limit of how high up in the first we could trade up.
And by then, most tackle needy teams have already taken all like the premier tackles by then.
But could Kelvin Banks be there?
I mean, we've also seen guys like Trey Smith. The way we got him is he fell in the draft due to injury concern and heart conditions or whatever, and he's played significantly well for us. So we're gonna have to hit on somebody falling deep in the draft due to outwardly reasons, not due to play.
Yeah, I mean, we need to draft another tackle. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And I think we should keep drafting tackles until we get the answer, because this is going to cut short a dynasty if you can't keep your O-line consistent. I mean, look at the Patriots dynasty. They always were just, it wasn't ever guys that stayed there for the longest time either. You'd have rentals of like 4 years, 2 years.
But their mainstays were always great offensive linemen.
Yes, they literally always had a great offensive line, and they had the depth. They had backups that would get paid elsewhere. I mean, we're kind of having that too. We had oh my gosh, Allegretti got paid, and so did Wiley, both backups for us. Well, Wiley was a pseudo starter, but we don't have the depth to replace them. We needed depth to replace them, and that just didn't happen.
This is also a good point to bring this out. I just saw this comment flash across my screen. If I think Kingsley deserves another chance before going to a guy like DJ Humphries. No. And here's why I say that, right? We've seen what Kingsley can do. I said in my draft analysis of the guy that he has the intangibles to be a starting tackle in the league, but he is not tackle ready. And it is shown, right? We brought in the guy DJ Humphries. We need to see what he can do. We've seen what Kingsley can do. Give DJ Humphries a chance. If he plays bad, give Kingsley another shot, right? And if both are bad, throw Tooney out there at left tackle for the rest of the season. I do not care. We need to have at least one side of the line consistently protected to have a chance at going deep in the playoffs. We can manage having one side of our line giving up a lot of pressure because we can scheme for that. But if both sides are just getting blitzkrieged all the way through the line, there's not much you can do as an offensive coordinator to counteract that.
And this is why we have you on the show, Garrett, is those offensive line analysis. And honestly, I was super high on Kingsley into the draft. I saw all of the like nice written draft reports by like ESPN analysts, Fox analysts, like pro football people. They all said, oh, Kingsley is going to be a steal. He's going to be a great pick. And like, it surprised me when I gave you the film package and you watched the All-22. It surprised me that you weren't as on board and that you had pointed out flaws in his game. And I was like, I hope Garrett's wrong. Well, it looked like
I hoped I was wrong too. What can I say? But I wasn't. And he has just not been up to par of what we need for a premier left tackle protecting a guy like Mahomes, right? I think he can be great.
He has the mindset.
He's got the mindset. He's got all the intangibles. He's got really good feet. He's quick. But he's just not ready. His leverage isn't there. He doesn't know exactly how to use his weight at the right times, and he just gets beat way too often. So
you said too, his like back is too straight, which I didn't even know was like a thing you'd had to look into as much. But you said his back was too straight in a lot of the BYU tape, and honestly too, he got the luxury of playing some bad defenses at his time at BYU, and he was just a better specimen.
Yeah.
So it might be a learning curve for him.
Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of people like, the defense is, kind of like our weak point right now. And, should we go and get corner? Yes, we should get corner. Our top 2 picks in the draft this year should be tackle and corner. I don't care. We can get another receiver later in the draft that we can, critique to our wants, right? But tackle and corner is our most needed positions currently. Might even be safety. Not sure.
No,
I don't think we need another one. But
no, because Hicks is going to take over when Reed is gone. I think Hicks is going to be ready, and he is getting more and more snaps every week. So I think we're fine on safety.
But also the thing is, like, what people aren't realizing, yes, the defense has been playing bad, but we held the Raiders to 17 points, right?
Well,
sure, they missed a lot of field goals.
3 field goals.
But those were deep 50-yard field goals, right? So they kept them from getting easier, closer field goals. We can't score. We cannot get in the end zone. That is our problem. Every time we can march down the field, we'll get to the 40-yard line, we'll get to the 30-yard line.
We'll even get to the 5-yard line.
We'll get to the 5-yard. We cannot get in the end zone. Field goals are not going to beat teams like Buffalo. It will not happen. So we need to learn how to get into the end zone, and it starts with our tackles.
You know what team it will beat though is the Ravens, because the Steelers beat them with only field goals.
It's just Matt. I'm not sure if it's our tackles or if it's Matt Nagy. Regardless, I still want Matt Nagy gone.
It's probably both.
Ever since he's joined, our offensive production has been slowly just riding down the slope on the roller coaster. Right? Not sure if that's only specifically him. I'm not going to say too much, but I want him gone. I'm not a big fan of Matt Nagy. I think he's kind of poisoning Mahomes' mind. I'm not sure how. He's just making him make really bad mistakes. But if we don't fix our red zone problems, not even red zone, just getting in the end zone at all, like even from deep, right? We are not going to beat good teams in the playoffs with field goals. It's not going to happen.
That's the other thing too, is like, yeah, we're 10-1. Why should we complain this much?
11-1.
11-1. But you can scrape by with bad offensive line play in the regular season. But once it becomes the playoffs, those teams, their pass rushers are going to play way more snaps than they were in the regular season. The rotations are going to change. They're going to be coming at you. They're going to be giving you your best shot. And eventually, it's really going to be a battle of the trenches, as it always is in the playoffs and always is in the Super Bowl. It's not sustainable. That's why we're concerned. Yes, we're 11-1. But there is a concern with the offensive line in the trenches, and honestly with the defensive line not getting home. Yeah. Let's talk about the one good thing. Chris Jones had 2 sacks. He finally breaks his sack streak. Our D-line finally got some pressure. George Karlaftis has been great all season, got a sack as well. It was great to see. And some people credit to Amena Hughes' return. I mean, he didn't really play that much, and he had 1 tackle. Funny enough, I had 3 good things to say about this game. Chris Jones sacked. Matt Ariza had 2 tackles, which is more than Amenahue, which is funny. And I'm going to cut Amenahue slack because it's obviously his first game back in a while. So, kamate on that one. But Matt Ariza 2 tackles. And then what was the other thing I said? Bolton
had a good game.
Nick Bolton. He carried us.
He has decent, like, he's never had like a terrible game, but he's been pretty consistently decent. He had a really good game against the Raiders, which probably was one of the main factors we held them to 17. I mean, our corners were getting absolutely torched to just, the blazes, right? They were just unhitching the trailer, burning us alive. But once they got deep into our territory, we stopped them, which can't ask for much more from them on that front. I'm not sure what we need to change defensively, especially with the injuries we have. I know Jalen Watson went down, so that's a huge loss to us, right? There's not much we can do personnel-wise to change. We just have to either change our scheme or go from there, right? And that's all up to Spagnuolo. I trust him. He's a smart guy. He can scheme up a lot of ways for us to get pressure, but he's getting us to the quarterback. The issue has been sacking the quarterback, finishing the sack, right? We're getting the pressure. We're not finishing the sack.
Absolutely. And I mean, maybe that's because our defenders are in the back, like the corners and safeties are getting beat so much that they just need to hold on to their guys for maybe a second longer and our sacks number increases. So that problem might not even be the D-line's fault. It could just be the play of our corners and safeties. And I mean, credit where credit's due. Joshua Williams came in and he played a really good game. But I mean, it's hard to say it's a really good game when we let Aiden O'Connell throw 340 passing yards against us in his debut from injury. This was supposed to be a slow, bring back up to speed kind of. Aiden O'Connell was trash last year. I mean, he was completely...
that's 2 weeks in a row now that we've let quarterbacks that have been struggling in the past a lot to just ball on us.
But
right?
Bryce Young had another good game against the Bucks, but the Bucks secondary is really bad too. So maybe not enough sample size with Bryce Young.
We are just a team that all of us they just take the brakes off. Like all these offensive coordinators go into this game like, I don't care what happens. This is our Super Bowl. We're gonna let out all the stops and we're just gonna put as many points on the board as possible. And it happens every time.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of offense for the Raiders, I sincerely did not see Sincere McCormick being a rusher. Did he have more yards than Derrick Henry, Garrett? He had 46. We held Derrick Henry under
64.
50.
I think he had 64 rushing yards. So, yes, he did. He had more rushing yards against us than Derrick Henry.
Oh, my gosh. That's insane. And then Amir Abdullah also had a complimentary game. They split 50-50. Amir Abdullah had a great game. Amir Abdullah had a 68-yard kick return, which also is another problem. We got beat on special teams aggressively. That's why Matt Araiza had to make tackles because they were just returning it. They were just making plays. It's actually quite unfathomable to think that the most rushing yards we've allowed to non-quarterbacks this year was against the Raiders' third and fourth string running backs.
It's just an insane number to talk about. We were holding King Henry to under 50 yards, but a guy named Sincere McCormick, which I had never heard of before, rushes for 64, gets 5.5 yards a carry. Right. Obviously that wasn't the major issue. It was letting Brock Bowers go 10 for 140 and a touchdown on us. And once again, we've proven time and time again, our defense, no matter what year it is, cannot cover tight ends. The tight ends just feast all over us every time they play us. And Brock Bowers was no different. I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He balled out. We lost on every aspect of the game.
Exactly.
Except for the scoreboard. And I really honestly wanted us to lose this game. We needed to get punched in the mouth. And we squeaked out another one.
This might be a win that is a punch in the mouth loss. I think all the players going into the locker room knew it was a loss. I think Kelsey going into the locker room so fast with Kareem Hunt, they both know it was a loss. That's another thing that we can get into too. We abandoned the run game so
instantly.
fast.
So fast.
Pacheco and Kareem Hunt did not get 10 carries. Either of them did. If you're a running back in the NFL, you need at least, I'd say 13 carries to get in a rhythm and at least 10 carries to be impactful. Pacheco had the best run of the entire season by a running back on this team in a 33-yard rip. You needed to feed him at least, I know he's coming back from injury. He needed at least 15 touches in this game with how the game was going. And I think he wanted those touches too. Now, and then Hunt, you got away from him too fast, but he was only averaging barely 2 yards a carry. So,
but even then, performance-wise, this was easily our worst offensive line performance in the run game and in the pass games. I think across the board, offensive line-wise, we've had our struggles. This was our worst game as a unit. And we had a similar game against the last time we played the Raiders. They all had pretty similar scores, but I'm not sure if the Raiders just have our number when it comes to figuring out when our runs are coming, when they're not coming. And they obviously could tell, hey, they're not going to run the ball because they barely did all game. So
yeah. Well, and here's, quite frankly, brief breakdown. The Raiders, when they wanted to run the ball, they could. Us, when we wanted to run the ball, we couldn't. They hit their tiny speedster wide receiver, Trey Tucker, on a deep bomb. We missed Worthy on our deep bomb. They fed their star tight end, Brock Bowers. We tried to feed our star tight end, Kelsey. Had a great first half, disappeared in the second. It's just getting beat at every single position. And even Jacoby Myers had a better game than Hopkins. And it's just every single facet.
I need to stop taking the over on Worthy yards because it doesn't matter if he's wide open. Mahomes is going to miss him every time. Has he connected on a deep ball with him at all this season, even when he's been wide open? I don't think so. I don't think it's happened.
Well, Garrett,
I think it's the Chargers.
It's the perfect transition into the Chargers. Are we done talking Raiders or
let's go into questions real quick. We could sleaze through there real quick. I saw one that was who would you want to step up into that offensive coordinator role if Matt Nagy was gone?
Oh, and I did respond in the Instagram comments, but I didn't say it outright. Yes, I I mean, personally, I have a bias, but I do like what I see with the Texas offense and how they do stuff in terms of just getting wide receivers open, playing a really simple game underneath, lots of great screen plays, lots of running the ball. Like they ran the ball 31 times with like Trey Wisner, and that might be football we need to play. But they really find ways to get there. They have similar wide receivers to us too. Like Isaiah Bond is like an Xavier Worthy clone. So I would like an offensive mind from college. They have seen a lot of success in the NFL. You look at with the Panthers, you look at with the Bills. They've recently gotten some offensive minds from college, and it's good to see, you know. So
yeah, and my in-season solution, if we were to magically fire Matt Nagy mid-season, I know he's not going to, but if he were to magically get fired, right? Put Andy Heck on there, the Chiefs' offensive line coach. Just give him the reins. Let us run the ball way more. Take over the game. He's going to make sure we don't have 14 carries total across 2 running backs. Like we had the games we've had success on offense, we've been very almost like 60-40, like 60 pass, 40 run, because obviously you're never going to have a true 50-50 with Mahomes at quarterback. You want to give your best player right now the best option to throw the ball, do what he needs to do. But we need to have, let's say, 30 carries a game. 15, 20, 10. Whatever needs to happen to get 30, that's all I'm good for. And Andy Heck's been a great offensive line coach for us. I mean, besides, you can't fix, talent, right? But interior-wise, he's been great for us.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the idea of bringing back Bieniemy. I mean, I think just having somebody come in that, is familiar with the system but had a positive impact on the organization. It looks like Jackson's got a question for us as well, too. So,
what by the way,
Statsman Jackson has been like in the background, like crunching numbers this podcast episode. So shout out. But what do you got?
This is kind of a double layered question. Do we feel like Spags and Reed aren't showing as much of the playbook this year as they have been in years past, and instead are trying to wait till maybe the next couple weeks or the playoffs to finally show off that new playbook?
See, this is something that I've always been a big believer in, is that Andy Reid is definitely dumbing down the playbook so that teams don't get a read on us in the playoffs. And that's usually my take. Like last year I was like, I'm not worried. Once it hits playoffs, we show it every year. All of a sudden our offense is electric. It's amazing. But the issues this year are ones that seem to be not fixable by just the playbook expanding. Red zone issues, red zone inefficiency, and tackle play are just not something that's going to be solved by, all of a sudden the playbook is opened up. So that's where I'm concerned for the first time.
For that point to be valid, right? When we're getting on the 30-yard line going in, we're not saying, oh, hey, let's hide the playbook and just kick a field goal. That's just not, if we're going into the red zone, we should score, I don't know, 55-60% of the time. But I mean, I don't think we scored a single time in the red zone last time.
Well, also to bring that back up to Bieniemy from earlier, I remember a quote from him. He said, "Every play I design has a possibility of being a touchdown," and that mentality does not seem to be what Nagy has.
Yeah, I guess the mentality for Nagy is, I hope we can get down there. That'd be kind of nice.
Yeah.
If we get in the 30-yard line, who cares? We'll just 5 deep bombs, and then we'll just kick a field goal.
All right, but Garrett, is it time to go to Chargers time?
Yeah, I think it is, because this is going to be a big one.
The Chargers team has found an identity since they had I wouldn't say it was a rocky start. I think they had a solid start, especially with a new coaching regime and a totally new offensive core. They made Quinton Johnston look good for a little bit until he was in the bright lights of a primetime game, and then he decided to have 3 drops. But, they've turned it around. Ladd McConkey looks like someone maybe we should have taken instead of Worthy, but I think Worthy has a higher ceiling. McConkey's just a sure-handed, amazing wide receiver he's incredible. I'm not going to lie. He's a player that...
he's been balling out.
He's a player that kind of everyone was like, oh, he's going to be good. He's not going to be great, but he's looking to be more on that great scale. So good for McConkey. He's definitely better than the last time we played them, which was all the way back in week 4.
So is the whole team. The Chargers, when we played them last, were, in kind of our similar situation. They were just severely injured. They had, Joe Alt was out. They had a ton of other players out at the time, and we
didn't Rashawn Slater not even play? Their two
he didn't
tackles
play
were
either.
out.
Both of their tackles were out, and we still didn't have a great game defensive line wise. And we barely squeaked out a win against them. So
I'm not liking that at all.
Yeah. The issue is that we're going into this game. We beat them 17-10 last time. Our offense stifled out as usual. Defense played really well, but they were out both of their starting tackles and a wide receiver. So how do we approach this game with the mindset of we need to obviously score more than 17 points because we're going to let up more than 10, right? And how do we keep pace with this offense that has been gaining momentum as the season's gone on?
I mean, you looked at them, keeping pace with the Ravens offense. Like, it looked similar to the Ravens-Bengals game where they just didn't have enough juice to get to the Ravens in the shootout like that. The Chargers team has found some studs. Christian Fulton is a guy I want to highlight. Corner for the Chargers. Free agent signing. He was injured a lot for the Titans and just didn't really get to live up to that draft prospect. He was an LSU standout corner, and Harbaugh's like, I'm familiar with his game. Let's bring him in. He's having his best season ever, and it's his first year at the Chargers. And they have done that consistently across the board. They have done really well in the personnel department of finding players who have not lived up to their potential, and they are living it on the Chargers. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is going to be out for this game, but that's another example of just Harbaugh's found some guys. It's funny because, Veach tries to do that too with, players like Mike Hughes and DeAndre Baker, who were first round corners that were not good for us, that we tried to resurrect the careers of. So, it's a crapshoot sometimes.
And I mean, we talked about them being injured before. It's not like they're fully healthy this time. Ladd McConkey is also questionable. I probably expect him to play though. Denzel Perryman's out. Cam Hart's out. I know this is sad, but I really wanted Eli Apple to play because I hate him so much, and I wanted Worthy to torch him, but he's out for the game. They have both their tackles back, so we're going to see a really full-on classic Chiefs versus Chargers performance. And the way they've been playing versus the way we've been playing, I'm not too sure if we can pull out one. I know a lot of people really expect us to win out. It's not going to happen. I probably expect us to drop 2 of our next 5.
Wow. I mean, it's not an unreasonable take. I think it is just too, there's a balance here of being realistic, and people are saying, oh, you're being pessimistic. But then there's other Chiefs fans who are being way too optimistic.
They're like, no, we're going to, beat everybody crazily and then make it to the playoffs and just coast our way to the AFC. It's just not going to happen.
I think even Nick Wright has started to become a little bit too,
Yeah, his never a doubt thing really pisses me off. I'm not going to lie. Every time he's
Really?
like, it was never a doubt. I'm like, no, it was a doubt. We totally should have lost that game.
Yeah. Wait, I haven't watched his reactions to the Raiders game, actually. Was it similar to that? Or
It was. He always leads with never a doubt. I'm like, yeah, okay. Okay, buddy.
We should have lost that game. We deserved to lose that game.
Yeah.
There was not...
We did also hold J.K. Dobbins to probably his worst game of the season.
They didn't run it with Gus Edwards last week, which is a little interesting. So we don't really know what Gus Edwards is still capable of doing. And I mean, I feel like Gus Edwards has done well against us in the past anyway, when he was on the Ravens. So,
another guy too that they have that we kind of really wanted and looked at during the draft process when he fell pretty hard was Brendan Rice. I mean, he's going to be out too, but it's just kind of like,
he hasn't done
Ladd
anything.
McConkey was kind of shown as possibly a Chiefs pick. He goes to the Chargers. Brendan Rice, when he was dropping, could have very easily went to the Chiefs. Went to the Chargers, right? So it's kind of very similar situations. I know he's not going to play, but Taylor Heineke's the backup on the Chargers right now. That's a little fun storyline. But I'm not sure what we can do to fix our offensive struggles, especially what we had against them last time we played them, which, I mean, it was early in the season. But have we played that much better?
I will say this. That was the only good Mahomes throw of the season. His best throw by far. I wouldn't say the only good throw Mahomes. The best throw Mahomes has had all season was that worthy dime against the Chargers. And it was a deep bomb. That was some flashes of what could have been. That was the only reason we won that game. So there were some flashes.
I mean, hopefully we can bring back that magic and Worthy can finally have a really good game. I mean, I'm not going to call it anymore because every time I do, it's just Mahomes misses him deep 3 times during a game, and
that Bills call was a good
It was call. If they're like, hey, he's 5 of 6 in the first half and he's the hot hand. Let's not target him the rest of the game.
Well, I think too,
wonderful decision making there.
I think it was a good take too by you because literally that was the first drive game script, the opening drive game script where they got like 3 to 4 targets. So like it was obviously Andy Reid's idea too that he wanted Worthy to have a good game. So it was a good call. It's just and
then they just stopped. They just
things
stopped
happen.
going to him. So
things happen.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
But yeah, I mean this Chargers team is definitely a contender. I don't think I would have said that any other year.
Yeah,
but it is a contender. Harbaugh is a great coach. He is a winner. He knows how to win, except against his brother. That's really funny. But this Chargers team has impressed me when I've watched them. Herbert has looked a lot better. I mean, they got a muddy win against the Bengals that they much needed. And I know the Bengals have not been great this season, but you love to see Herbert kind of breaking that curse of being not clutch. We'll see if it's going to come down to the final drive. This game is going to come down to the final drive.
Yeah, it's going to be another 3-point game, and I know we don't want it to be, but it will. Also, would just like to point out, this is one of our current AFC playoff opponents that we're going to be facing over the next 5 weeks. They are currently the 5 seed, and we are currently the 1 seed. So, pretty much a division playoff matchup before the playoffs. So, it's going to be tensions are high, and it's going to be a close game.
Absolutely. So, that being said, Garrett, let's go right into score predictions here. I mean, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game just because, well, quite frankly, I don't think we can score much. Our defense is still good. I think the Raiders game is a little bit of a fluke. The Panthers game was also a little bit of a fluke. I'm willing to say that we've righted the ship now. We have our D-end Omenihu back. He's going to play a lot more. We have maybe Uche will get more than 1 snap. That was another thing I wanted to mention. That really pissed me off because I actually like him and I think he's shown some great pressures in his limited snaps, but 1 snap for him is just not going to cut it. Joshua Williams is going to help a lot on the outside. I'm going to say the score is going to be 24-21. It's going to be a really close game with I don't know if Schrader is going to be back, with a field goal that the Chiefs kick, whether it be Schrader or Wright. Or Butker magically is allowed to break the rules and come back from IR early. But
I think looking at the game, looking at the schedule we have going forward and the way we've played before, I think this is going to be the first time I actually predict us losing a game this season. I think Hopkins has a pretty good game. I think Worthy kind of follows that. He might have, a 50, 60-yard game. I could see Pacheco and Kareem Hunt going for a decent amount. I just think our red zone issues aren't going to be solved in a week, and they're going to have a lot of film on us. The Chargers always play us close. I think it's going to be a 21-17 Chargers win. I think This is one of the 2 that we drop in the next 5 weeks. Next one probably is the Steelers. That would probably be our other loss. But I don't see us coming out with a win on Sunday.
And that's honestly fair. It's a miracle that we sweeped the Raiders. It's a miracle we beat the Broncos in that first matchup, and and the Chargers game was again another close matchup. So these rivalry games can go either way. It's a valid prediction, especially with the issues we have and their personnel. They have a good defense and they're going to stop us in the red zone. You're right. Like, we can't score in the red zone. It's like crazy to even think that we can't do that.
And even to speak of the Broncos, they're also the 7 seed currently in the playoffs, right? So we have a lot of tough opponents coming up. We need to prepare for them accordingly, right? We can't just coast in the playoffs like we always do. The AFC West is coming back for its revenge, right?
Yeah.
I don't see us sweeping the Chargers, which is why I predicted us losing this game. We'll see what happens when we play the Broncos again, the last game of the season. I just hope we pick it up. I think we take this one on the chin, go in, beat the Browns, might lose to the Steelers later, beat the Texans, and then we're depends how our seeding is going to go if we put starters in for the Broncos.
My prediction that's crazy for the Chargers this game is Kiami Vidal is going to get a touchdown. I think for some reason that's their backup rookie running back. I just think I think they're going to unleash him, and all of a sudden he's going to go off against us because, look at some sincere McCormick.
My prediction: Tucker Fisk, their backup tight end, is going to have a touchdown.
Dude,
we never cover tight ends, dude. It's going to happen, and there's just nothing we're going to do to stop it.
Well, is Hayden Hurst going to come back? I know Will Dissly had no catches last week either, so Oh, Will Disley is probably going to go off, honestly.
Dude, all I care about is if we let Jalen Rager run all over us in the receiving game, I might just burn my TV. I hate Jalen Rager so much. God,
it's gonna be a fun game. I mean, it's gonna be an all-time classic. It's unfortunately I might not be able to like watch the game, so I might have to like rewatch it, which is gonna stink. But because I'm gonna be away, so hopefully like I'm able to watch this game. But Garrett, that wraps up our hour. I think we can answer some questions.
If you guys have any questions before we hop off, we'd be glad to answer them.
Oh, I love this question.
Oh, is it? It might be the same one I'm looking at.
Is it the Ashton Genty one?
No. It's a different one.
Okay, well, you go with yours after we answer the Ashton Genty one then, because Garrett, I know you've been talking about Ashton Genty.
I love Ashton Genty so much. He would never fall to us, and if he did, I wouldn't want to take him in the first because we need a tackle really bad. And if we got Ashton Genty, we'd be explosive, but we wouldn't be able to block. So
maybe he wouldn't be that actually useful. I know that you said earlier in the season when it wasn't a problem that you wanted him, but now that there's too many needs now. We have too many needs. We can't take a luxury player like Gianti. When we took Clyde, we had the ability to take a luxury player. Although I wish the luxury choice was a wide receiver in T. Higgins, but we neither here nor there. What's the other question, Jackson?
So with Hollywood coming back potentially within the month, do you guys think that he'll kind of have the similar role that Rice had?
I don't know. They don't play football the same way. They're very different receivers in the way that they go out and run routes. Rice was more of like a volume, can just get the ball quickly and get some rack yards. Hollywood, he's just not that like catching coverage kind of guy. He's more of like a get open with his routes and find some space. But
the thing I like about Rice's game is he's kind of like a running back wide receiver, if that makes any sense. Like, think of Michael Thomas with like the run after catch ability of like Alvin Kamara combined. That's like what I think of with Rashee Rice. And he's just a really good, like absolute zone eater and then yards after catch, or like just quick zone beat, yard after catch, make a contested, like hard, fast catch. I love Rice. And unfortunately that player is going to be hard to replace. And Hollywood is not that type of game. But Hollywood is going to be a lot better.
He's got his own skill set that it will bring to the table and allow us to open up more options.
He's low-key really good at deep curls. I don't think I've ever seen Nagy call a deep curl, so I don't know if we're actually going to use that ability of Hollywood's. But deep curl routes are something he's really good at.
Yeah, but other than that,
we have some more questions too. What do you think about Kareem Hunt in the backfield? Is it going to be kind of like the David Montgomery Gibbs type role? Unfortunately, I don't think that, because I think that we have absolutely abused Kareem Hunt, and he is becoming washed right before our eyes because of how many carries we've just beaten into him. We have won so many games on the back of Kareem Hunt, and I will forever be grateful.
The backpack's getting heavy. The backpack is getting heavy. Fortunately, Pacheco can lighten the load a little bit. I could see Pacheco being the main carry back until we get in the red zone. Classic, Pacheco brings us down there, let's throw Kareem Hunt in there to get some tough yards, might score like a red zone touchdown. But I don't see him like taking over and getting the majority of snaps anymore. But I do love Kareem.
I do love Kareem. And it's sad to see too. I think we knew that, with Pacheco coming back, we could give Hunt more carries, but gotta love Kareem. He actually led the team in a win with receiving yards. I think it was the Broncos game. So he was our leading receiver in one game too. So, shout out to Kareem. He's done so much this season, but I've been seeing the decline. Hopefully he'll still be able to be on goal line sets and stuff, but I still love Kareem though, dude. I'm just a little bit like, I think it's his time is starting to be seen.
And just real quick before we kind of like end things up here, if you guys weren't aware, we did eliminate the Raiders from the playoffs. So them and the Patriots are currently eliminated on the AFC side, along with the Giants on the NFC side. Teams that could be eliminated this week are the Jaguars and Panthers. So we'll see how that pans out. We're getting close to the playoffs.
The Panthers have a really debatably not easy, but they have a realistic shot at the playoffs, is what I've seen.
Well, losing that tough one against the Buccaneers last night really does not help their case.
It does not help.
So
but they still have a shot. They still have a shot. I think the Saints have to beat both the Bucks, and the Falcons have looked terrible in their last couple of games too. So there's a shot for the Panthers, but yeah. I see someone in the comments say they have a big question and they have not asked it yet. So we are going to wait before we end the show when that question comes through. But I mean, basically the moral of the story is we need to start finding solutions on the offensive line. That's been the moral of the story for this entire season. And I am such a believer in fundamental football. If you don't win in the trenches, you don't win the Super Bowl. And right now we are not winning in the trenches, both offensive line and defensive line. Oh, and the question finally came in. It's how do y'all feel about Nazeeh Johnson on defense? And we talked about that earlier. We could rehash it a little bit, but basically the benching was warranted in Joshua Williams. He stepped up.
He played well when he came in, and we definitely need to draft a corner. That's kind of like the TLDR. Too long didn't read. Nazeeh Johnson got benched for a reason. It sucks, but it had to happen, and we need to draft a corner. So.
You know what this does remind me of is a segment that I didn't make because I was too mad. But dude, this cornerback draft class was freaking elite. Like this is one of the best DB draft classes.
It was a really good DB
of
class.
Like maybe the last 10 years, and we didn't take a corner. Oh wait, we did. It was Kamal Haddon, the one bust, but it was all the way in the 6th round. Why did we take Wiley? Why did we take Jared Wiley? We really didn't need him because all these other tight ends we brought in have done just as fine. Like Fortson has done just as fine. Like and Noah Gray is the tight end of the future. I don't like the Wiley draft pick so early when there were corners on the board who would have been.
And we probably could have gotten Wiley later. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, especially because like he really wasn't a full-time starter. In Texas, he didn't even play much. He was just a blocker. And then TCU, he had some like good years. But as we've seen, TCU pass catchers have been amazing in the NFL, right, Garrett? Like,
yeah.
Oh, they're so good. Jalen Reagor and Quinton Johnston and
hey,
Darius Davis.
You're trashing on Jalen Reagor. He's about to go for 130 on us. Like, I'm just calling it, dude.
Well, honestly, dude, I think Quinton Johnston might have a good game against us. Like, he's like Mike. Remember, he's like Mike Williams type, you know.
He's gonna suddenly find his hands like in a dumpster bin somewhere, and then he's just gonna lock in.
I just realized too, the Chargers have 3 TCU wide receivers. They have Darius Davis, Jalen Reagor, and Quinton Johnston. That's actually why.
The TCU room, man.
I know they had Max Duggan at one point too. The TCU to Chargers pipeline is actually hilarious. Like I really don't know what else to say. Someone said they sent us a Chiefs Christmas song. I'm gonna have to check my DMs for that.
Well, checking the amount of Chiefs songs we've seen already on the podcast that we've talked about putting on here is probably.
Well, what do you mean talked about? Why can't we?
No, we don't need to play this song. We do not need to do it. It's so bad.
Wait, I don't think this is the one.
No, it's not even the right one.
No.
Yeah, there it is. It's just so bad. It's so bad and loud. It's so terrible. We're getting off the rails. It's so bad. It's so bad. Please stop. It's so bad.
I really was looking for a good song and to intro
it's so
this.
Bad.
It was not the answer to what we needed.
Tech 9 is better. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we just play Red Kingdom, but then we get copyright strikes, so we can't do that.
Well, we are approaching that hour-long mark. We appreciate everybody in the comments going along with the pod. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to go, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to boost those numbers.
Leave a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because apparently you guys do use Apple Podcasts. My bad.
And we are going to try and continue to stream every podcast at 5:30 on Mondays. So if you guys want to keep hopping in, make that a part of your Monday routine. We're going to keep doing it. So
sometimes it might be Tuesday, though. The thing that sucks about Monday, Garrett, is that the practice is on Tuesday, and then we like learn all the injuries and stuff. So we are missing a couple key information by doing it Monday. So, but it is what it is. We talk chop. Kareem Hunt Lovey-Dovey is an account that follows us.
and we're always talking chop, baby.
And we're always loving Kareem Hunt. See you guys.